Joe Morton, or should I say Emmy winner Joe Morton. I think that's your new name now.
There you go.
Congrats on your big win last year for Scandal. Take us through what it was like going up on that stage, making your speech, accepting your trophy.
It's mind blowing. You think you're not sure what you're saying, you're not sure what's going on. You hear your name. The first thing is relief. It's over one way or the other. Then you realize, oh, they actually called my name. I think I tried to kiss my girlfriend, who decided that I was trying to give her a double high five. Walked up on the stage, and took the statue, and then started the speech. And then what also happens, you realize you only have any number of seconds before they're going to sort of bleep you off. So you're trying to get everybody's name in. And I think I almost forgot to thank Shonda Rhimes. And then, of course, it struck me at the last minute that I should. And so that's why I said at the end, of course, all things go to Shonda Rhimes. So it's, you're kind of walking on air. It's unbelievable.
And you know what? I think Gold Derby owes you an apology because we had you in second place. We weren't predicting you. Although personally, I was predicting you just because, I watched all the episodes that were submitted. Your episode was so fantastic. Did you pick that episode, or was that ABC that picked that one?
I think we picked it because there was a lot of conversation between ABC and I going back and forth in terms of what episodes we were going to use them. So I think my publicists and I picked it together.
Nice. So yeah, we have to talk about the finale that just aired. And so spoiler alert, if anyone hasn't watched it yet, go watch the finale and then come back here.
Exactly.
It looks like we've seen the end of B613 and possibly the end of Rowan. Of course, Eli is still a character, but Rowan may be gone. What are your thoughts about all of that?
I don't know. I mean, it's kind of like it's schizophrenia, right? Eli and Rowan are embody the same vessel. So on one hand, because we see where he ends up, I'm trying to say it this way so the people who haven't seen it won't know what I'm talking about. So because of where he ends up, on one hand, you think, he's going to take that place over in a second. On the other hand, he has at play possibly Cyrus and Melly, who also find themselves on the outs, if you will. So we'll see. I don't know. It's hard to tell what Shonda will come up with. So who knows?
Do you have a favorite scene or a favorite moment from the finale? I just love every scene that you're in with Kerry Washington, of course, but you actually had a scene with Melly for the first time.
Oh, yes, for the first time. I loved that scene. I loved having a good time because he goes in and out of this fictitious character, Damascus. So he goes in and out of that and becomes Rowan, goes back and forth. I had a good time doing that. Yeah, that was fun.
Is there anyone else from the show that you really have never worked with before? It's such a big cast.
I'm trying to think. I've worked with Tony. I haven't worked, kind of, because Portia was in that scene sort of on the side. So she and I haven't really worked together. And I think Darby and I haven't really worked together. We've had moments, but not ever done a scene together.
Do you feel like maybe you're playing two different characters with Eli, the loving father, and then with Rowan, the evil mastermind?
I think that Rowan is an invisible man, if you will. Eli is the mask. So it's not really going back and forth between two characters. Obviously, it's the same person. And he uses Eli as the cover because, as Maya's character said last night, no one really knows who Rowan is. And so that's why he gets away with all that evil. So it's more about being invisible.
And just before we went live, you mentioned that Shonda and the team had maybe rewritten some scenes for the finale, so you weren't sure, what finale version we would see. Was there anything that maybe got edited out of the finale that you recall?
Between Charlie and Quinn, that was edited out. Charlie tries to talk Quinn into going into New Zealand because everybody's being killed, so he says it's time to get out of Dodge. So he tries to talk her into going, and obviously she doesn't go. So that was gone. And what had happened actually is we got word that the ending had been changed. And in fact, it wasn't that it had been changed, just things had been re-edited in a different way.
So the cliffhanger there on the White House porch, is that what you're referring to?
That had always been there.
Oh, okay.
You know what I thought?
What's fan reaction?
I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I thought before you were going to talk about the new rules in terms of the Emmys this year having to do with guest artists. They've changed the rules so that this year I have to compete as a supporting actor as opposed to a guest star, because if you've done more than 50% of the number of episodes being shot. So it'll be a different experience this year.
Right. And, I was going to mention that, and I was going to say, the Emmys kind of promoted you to the supporting category. And what's it like is that more cutthroat of a category, or, talk about that change a little bit?
Yeah, it just means, it will be more difficult because the caliber of actors and the caliber of the category is just a much more difficult category. I don't know that any of it is more or less cutthroat than it was before. It just means it'll be a harder push.
Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering, when is Scandal going to give you the series regular promotion? Because you've been on the show for so long and you're such an integral part. I think your fans really, really want to see you get that series regular.
It's not going to happen for a couple of reasons. One, the biggest reason is that I have another show that I'm doing at the same time. I'm starting Proof, will come on the air June 16th on Tuesday, 10 o'clock. No plug intended. But so because of that, because I have a contract there, I can't become a regular on Scandal. But I think the recurring thing will probably continue, or I hope it will continue.
Mm-hmm. It almost adds to the sense of, your character maybe could be killed off any moment because you're not a regular. You're technically a guest star.
Absolutely. It could happen at any time.
I hope it never does.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. If you do get nominated for the supporting actor category, do you have an episode in mind from season 4 that you may submit? Is there an episode that's more showy or more impactful?
There's a couple. There's one where I confronted, I don't know if you remember, where Kerry confronts me with a pistol. Looks like she's going to shoot me, and she doesn't. So there's that one. But I'll have to sort of go back and start taking a look at what we've done. They all begin to sort of meld together into one big thing. So I need to find out what's still eligible and what's not. But there's a couple of things I have in mind, but I'm not quite sure.
Right. What's the fan reaction like on the street when people want to talk to you about Scandal? Do fans love Rowan, or do they hate him, or is it somewhere in between?
I think most fans, and this is sort of the beauty of the characters, most fans love hating Rowan. So you get a bit of both. On the street, what happens is I think there's a lot of trepidation. They kind of approach me afraid that I'm as evil in life as I am on the screen. But I think it's a love-hate relationship in terms of they love to hate Rowan, and that's terrific.
Mm-hmm. Some people I've talked to that play villains on shows, they don't see themselves as the villain. They see themselves as kind of a darker hero. How do you see Rowan in terms of, is he a villain, 100%, or are there some heroic qualities?
I think that in order to play a villain, you have to play him from a positive point of view, not a negative point of view. Most villains, in my mind, are doing whatever they're doing because they think they're either making their world better or they're making the world in general a better place. So all of the things that whether it's just murder or, in my case, kind of all this espionage, and it's all to make the world, and in this case, the Republic, a better place. So in that sense, I suppose he's heroic.
Mm. The episode before the finale, there was a great scene where Scott Foley and Brian White were basically doing impressions of your character. That was such a funny scene. What did you think of their impersonations?
Well, first of all, I thought they nailed it, both of them. I loved it, and it was also, that was another one of those times where they had changed the scene. In the script that I had, that scene didn't exist. So it was a surprise, which was great. And two, it was wonderfully, what's the word? It was warm in a way, because it's kind of like two of your kids talking about dad when dad's not in the room. And I love that part of it.
Yeah. I was going to say, do you have I guess let's go back to the start. How did you get cast on Scandal? It was season 2 where you came in, right at the end of season 2?
I'd come to LA for pilot season. I knew about the show, but I hadn't seen it, and started watching it on Netflix. When I watched the show, I loved it. I loved Cyrus's character in particular. I loved the writing. I loved the way it was shot. I loved the direction. And so I thought to myself, maybe there's a way to get on the show. But before I had an opportunity to talk to any of my agents or managers, I actually got a call from my agent saying, ABC Scandal wants to talk to you about coming on the show. So it's almost like I put it out there in the world and it came right back to me. Mark Wilding, who was one of the writer-producers, called me on the phone and basically told me that the offer was to do those 6 episodes that we did at the end of season 2 with the secret that I was going to be revealed at the end as Olivia's dad. So they had me. And it was a secret. I was the only one who knew. Kerry didn't know. None of the other actors knew.
Wow.
Only a couple of the other producers even knew.
Mm-hmm. This show is so popular on platforms like Netflix because of the binge factor.
Yes.
And I know, just from my perspective, it's hard sometimes to remember back to think of specific episodes, but it's really easy to remember storylines in that respect. I think your character has one of the strongest storylines on the show. He's so memorable, and I think that has a lot to do with your performance. And yeah, how did you beat Beau Bridges last year? Because a lot of people were betting on Beau Bridges. How did you take him down? Was there some kind of B613 espionage?
Yes, we sort of stuffed all the ballot boxes with my name. Who knows? I mean, obviously, it's a tremendous honor to be given an Emmy because the voters are your peers, and that's what makes it special. Beau Bridges, and there was a list of actors in that category last year who were all wonderful, wonderful actors.
I think Robert Morse
in particular, because I think that episode of his was the last episode he was going to be in the show. He dies in the show. He came back and sort of sang and does all the things, all the wonderful things that he's done in the past. So it's a matter of on a certain level of kind of luck in a way, and a hope that your peers. It depends on how they feel about your work.
Mm-hmm. We also have a theory that if your character has a lot of big speeches, big emotional, monologues, that helps because the voters see, they see passion in the character. And I mean, Rowan, my gosh, some of those speeches he gives are just epic. Do you have a favorite speech from maybe the past season or overall?
I think I have a few. I mean, obviously the one about you have to work twice as hard to get half as much, which is the beginning of season 3. With Kerry, that's one of my favorites. The boy speech with Tony, with Fitz, when I'm chained to the chair and I call him a boy. There's a speech out in the park with Olivia. One is called Run, where I tell her to run, and the other one was where I talk about the number of people I am responsible for killing. But the end of that speech turns around. He talks about, but I do all I do because of her. Because she's the light that makes all these things worthwhile. So those I think are probably my favorites.
Mm-hmm. I was actually wondering how many people Rowan had killed or been responsible for killing. I think in the finale, I mean, there was
a busload.
A busload, yeah.
Right.
Is somebody keeping track of all of that?
I'm sure somebody is. I bet you if you ask Shonda, she'll probably know. I've lost count. Well, because also there's all those people who went down in the airplane in the past, right? Yeah. Remember that? So there is a truckload of people who Rowan is responsible for killing.
And can you talk about your new project a little bit? Did you say it was called Proof?
Called Proof. The idea of the show is to investigate whether there is life after death. Matthew Modine, it's Matthew Modine, myself, and Jennifer Beals. Matthew plays a very wealthy, very ill gentleman who manages to talk Jennifer Beals, who is a heart surgeon, into following a group of files that he's put together in terms of near-death experiences. Matthew is the kind of the guy in the show who he has to know in advance what's going to happen. So since he's dying, he wants to know what's going to happen to him when he dies. So he manages, as I say, to talk Jennifer into following all of these near-death experiences. And one of the ways he's able to do that is that she's just lost her son, and she's also had a near-death experience herself. I play Jennifer's boss. I'm a brain surgeon also in charge of surgery at the hospital, and I get involved with Matthew's character in that his cancer metastasizes to his brain, but I know nothing about their sort of on-the-side research.
Awesome. And besides Scandal, what is it fans most want to talk to you about in terms of projects? Is it maybe Terminator 2?
Yeah, I mean, yes, lots of people remember Terminator 2. Older fans love talking about Brother from Another Planet. So I think those are the two big ones. But I'm hoping in the future people will want to talk. I'm supposed to be doing a play this fall called Turn Me Loose, written by Gretchen Law, about Dick Gregory. It's basically a one-hander that we'll be doing for 3 weeks at the Apollo Theater, starting September 20th.
Nice. And you were in that episode of The X-Files, right? Am I remembering correctly, where it was told backwards?
That's right. And in fact, Bellamy played my lawyer in that episode.
Oh, wow. I'm such a big X-Files fan. That's how I personally remember you.
Is that right?
Yes. That was a good one.
That's a wonderful one, because the whole thing was he starts off in prison, and I think he's waiting to die, but then he begins experiencing what happens in going backwards.
Nice. Well, we wish you best of luck at the Emmys. You have the trophy already, but now you're going to be in the new category. So we're hoping that voters will give you the push once more.
Thank you very much. Well, you know, we just have to sort of give it up to God or whomever one believes in and see what happens. You know, I would love to win it again, but as I say, this will be a much more difficult category. So we'll see what happens.
All right. Thanks so much, Joe.
Thank you.